Can we change it to that?
I can.
Thank you.
Who's that, Tom?
Yes.
Hi, Lee.
How are you?
Good evening.
Well, thanks.
And good evening to our highly respected media.
Good evening. How you doing?
Good.
Good.
Don't get any media bashing in this group.
I take pride in being an enemy of the people.
Josh or Darcy, just a reminder, Fred is on the cell phone with the last four numbers of 3596. So he should kind of remain open because we won't know if he wants to speak because we can't see him.
Okay.
Hi, John. I never got a chance to say welcome to the district.
Oh, thank you very much. Good to be here.
Glad to have you.
Lee, can I ask, how's your wife doing?
That big event is tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
We're down here early though. There was you probably might have seen it on the news, but there was a really bad crash on Route 2 by Littleton. So we got delayed 45 minutes, but we're here. So we'll get her over there tomorrow, take care of that issue.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Ken. I miss you, Ken. I miss you.
I miss sitting next to you. We're not even in the. We're
I was
not
going to
even
listen
next
to it out here with
each
Jim, and I didn't realize you
other.
were out here. Well, I'll listen to it in there.
What did you say, Ken?
We're not even next to each other here on the gallery view.
Oh, see, on my screen, we're side by side.
Really?
Yes.
I'll take the noise down here.
I'm mute.
Just so you know, I just let Carla in. The only person I don't see is Mr. Baptista.
I'm not leaving. I'm getting a pen.
Chuck, you look nice and comfortable.
I guess.
Chuck's in his usual spot.
Yeah, played golf and tennis and just mellowing out.
You're muted, Deb.
Okay. By my clock on the computer down here, it's 6:30. So I'd like to call the July 15th meeting to order. And also, just so you know, you are being streamed as of right now on the district's Facebook page, as well as a YouTube channel for the district. And this will also be played back for AOTV. If one thing that's easier on us from the committee and admin side here, if you are not directly involved on the committee or a member of the admin team, it would be good if you could keep your video off for now and mute yourself. And then once we do have a moderator host, plus Darcy is also a host. if they see you pop on, then they can let me know that there's somebody present. But the easiest way is actually use the chat feature and write your comment so that it can be seen. We do record that in case we have to get back to you. Okay, Mitch. You're muted.
There we go. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, first thing on the agenda is the June 17th approval of minutes.
Move
Is
to
there a
accept. Move to accept.
I'll second.
And second by Deb.
Okay.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
And then the July 1st set of minutes. Is there a motion?
Also move to accept.
I think that was Ken and then Mitch. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Thank you. Okay. Public input. I know we don't have the sheet, so it's a little difficult, but I haven't seen any commenting on the chat either. So again, if you have a question during the segments that we do, just write it in chat. And if we don't get back to you, we do record those and then somebody can get back to you at a later time. Recognitions. I'll go down the line as I see it. Ken,
Nothing.
Mitch,
Nothing specific, but again, I'm sure we all recognize the administration and the teachers for the work that they continue to do to prepare for school.
you, Deb,
None.
you, Chuck,
None, thank you.
Tammy,
None, thank you.
Nancy,
None, thank you.
Bill,
Nothing, thank you.
and Carla. Carla, you're muted. There you go.
Nothing.
Okay. Chuck, did you have your hand up?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. And I don't think I missed anybody. Unfinished business, there is none this evening. New business, fall reopening.
Okay, I'm going to begin this evening with a slide presentation that I will be sharing on the screen. So let me get to that. Everybody will just be patient with me for a minute. Okay, can everybody see that? Can somebody just give me a wave if they can see the PowerPoint? So I can get
Yeah.
started? Great.
Yeah,
Yes.
can see it.
So tonight I want to do some
I'm
information.
sorry, I'm getting some feedback. Could everybody mute themselves, please?
Mute.
Okay, we're good? Is that better, Mitch? Okay. So I'm going to go through this, and at some point when we get to the options for reopening, I am going to have the principal speak a little bit to it. So tonight, I want to talk just about the health guidelines and options for reopening. First of all, we are looking very deeply into personal protection and making sure that the areas that we need to work with our students and our staff on are clear. One of those things that we'll be promoting when we reopen is frequent hand washing, helping families to assess if they're sick and how to stay home if you are. When less than 6 feet apart to make sure they're wearing masks. The school will provide students with 3 cloth masks. and families will need to provide beyond that. But they will begin with 3 cloth masks, and they will be getting information from their schools as to when they can pick them up. Teachers will be giving supply of medical masks and face shield. So they will have enough medical masks for every single day, as well as a face shield to wear. And in high touch areas, teachers who have high touch students, particularly pre-K through 1, will be getting gowns and gloves as well. Students with medical doctor's notes will be allowed to wear a face shield instead of a face mask, and we will provide the face shield if they are in that situation. We will be using hand sanitizer that's recommended to be at least 60% alcohol, and they will be available in all classrooms. We will have promotion signs in the building on promoting high healthy habits such as washing hands, staying 6 feet apart, and such, posted throughout the building. For our environment, we plan to clean and disinfect high touch areas throughout the day. Each individual school, we are planning to have an additional custodian in the building to help with that. We are working right now with the bus company to do disinfecting on the buses. We're currently looking at recommended products to use on the buses for disinfecting. We are not planning to have students share objects, so parents will get a list of things they should be purchasing and putting in one of those small plastic pencil boxes to have, package of crayons, some pencils, pens, and such to bring to school. For students who are families who are unable to provide it for their children, we'll do our best to provide it, but we want to try to get as many students bringing it to school as possible. We are looking right now at our ventilation system because this is an issue that has been discussed in many venues as far as the COVID is concerned, and there's been recommendations if we don't have certain systems, what we can do for that. So we are currently looking at that situation and evaluating it with our facilities manager, and we will get back to people on that. I know we have a really highly effective ventilation system at ACES. Whether that's the same in the other buildings, we're not sure of, but we will meet the CDC guidelines for making sure things are properly ventilated. Water fountains will be used only for filling bottles. Students will not be able to drink directly out of them once school reopens. We are doing spacing at 3 feet minimum. We're trying to go beyond the 3 feet, but right now we are looking at a minimum of 3 feet. We're looking at putting physical barriers in both the music and band classes. So if you've ever seen those plastic barriers, you might see them at the bank or other places. We're looking to do that to try to help. So if students are singing or playing a wind instrument, there's an extra layer of protection there. We are still waiting to see what the state says in regards to this. We have not received that feedback yet from the state. Using the cafeteria, gym, and playgrounds, we are looking at making sure it's a minimum of 6 feet distancing and no stress activities in that area, in those areas. But we are currently looking at a way in which to use them that will be appropriate for students. As far as eating is concerned, we're looking at using all disposable food items when eating so that we clearly, when students are using it, it doesn't get reused, it gets thrown away. And then we are looking at breakfast to go at the end of every day so that students can have breakfast in the morning prior to coming to school, so we don't have students eating in the classrooms because with the 3 feet distancing, we won't be able to feed children within the classroom. The only exception to that would be pre-K to 1, where we are allowed to have kids with face masks off within 3 feet. Next, healthy operations. We're going to limit exposure of high-risk staff and students. We are evaluating that now. We have gotten some emails already back from faculty concerned about their health risks. So we're going to be looking at that. And we are currently going to be putting out a survey tomorrow asking families if they have a high-risk student, who they are, so we can work with that family on protecting them. We will be protecting people's privacy. We do not have a right to let anybody know due to FERPA law if someone has COVID. So we're going to be very careful to protect people's privacy in that area. We are trying to limit all group sizes to less than 20 with at least 3 feet apart within the building. We are looking to limit visitors so that so we don't have people coming in the outside constantly potentially infecting the building. So we're going to be very careful about limiting the number of visitors within the school, and even if they're coming in, limiting the spaces in which they go to. Keeping in small cohort groups when possible, particularly at the elementary school. We're looking to have the teachers move rather than the students, so the students stay in the same environment the majority of the day. At the upper grade levels, we're looking to stagger passing to help those students. And at all schools, we're looking at staggering arrival, drop off, and passing. So parents can expect that they will get information from their school with protocols as to where to drop their children off. So buses, it won't be like last year where everybody dropped off the front of the building and went in. There'll be certain doors for certain grade levels or certain homeroom students to go into the building, and principals will be putting that together and giving that to families. We are waiting for protocols for when someone's sick. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education will be providing that for us. My understanding is we will have that by next week. As soon as we do, we will publicize that. Protocol for school closure and movement to remote learning will also be coming directly from the state, and we are waiting to get that. So they will tell us exactly when we are to close based on thresholds. And so we will be getting that information and publicizing it as soon as it's received. And what we are planning right now is for staff training to make sure they understand the protocol so they can explain them to students, and also what to do if we're in a situation where someone is absent and making sure we can cover rooms. So we are currently working on that. Next, preparedness. Students and staff need to isolate at home if they're sick. That's our first thing we're looking to do. If you're sick, to stay home. We're going to train teachers, staff, and parents in signs of COVID so that they will be able to say, we think you need to see the nurse, and then the nurse will make the final decision to whether to move that student at home. We will have isolate individuals who show signs of COVID. We will have isolation rooms in the buildings. In order for them to return, they will have to give us medical documentation saying they're cleared. We will clean and disinfect all areas where someone was sick immediately. And so if we find that someone was sick, that room will be deep cleaned immediately. We will notify the health department of any cases and follow guidelines given by them. I know this has been a question in a lot of parents' minds, and we do have a plan to make sure we keep people safe if someone does get sick within our building. Fall reopening, we have a secondary plan and an elementary plan. I'd like to ask the secondary principals, Tom Telecki and Dave King, to come on at this point and talk about your reopening plan for the fall if we go to a full opening.
Sure, Darcy, would you like me to start?
Yes, you can go ahead, Tom. And if I don't know if you're doing it alone or you're doing it with Dave.
I'll do it. I'll begin. Dave, you could add if you'd like afterward. Anything that I don't cover. I would like to thank you, Darcy, and the entire committee for the investment of human and other resources in ARMS. I think it's going to be a very safe year. Confident that we're going to see impressive gains academically and be a model school in the state. So I want to thank all of you. Thanks to our new dean team of Chris and Dan. They've been developing the plans for the fall that involve specific entries and exits, plans for passing, requirements for mask and PPE use. We have a protocol for visitors who can come in and where and how meetings will be held. There's an isolation room, which might be more politely called a health safety room, perhaps, for those who display symptoms that we could keep safe and keep an eye on. Classes will be certainly spaced out, where we've got a plan for that, moving certain classrooms to different places. We have, we've been practicing with seating arrangements to make sure that we're within state guidelines. Every student, every day, all day will be monitored for their safety, their well-being. And I think what really is great about our staff now is that we have both veterans who know every inch of the building, and we have new people who have new perspectives, who can kind of come from different schools and offer a different, maybe a new perspective on how we do things. So I think along with all that, it'll be a really great, safe year.
Okay, Dave King, did you want to add something at this point?
Yeah, I just think for the committee and for any of the public that might be out there, some of the things that might feel a little different for those that come into the building. So our schedule is going to be a little bit more rigid. In the past, students have been able to be dropped off earlier in the school day And that's not going to be able to happen as when the students come in, they're going to have to go right into their classrooms, which is going to be a different feel. So that is just going to be something that's going to be different in both of our buildings. So at 7:25, when the doors open, that's when our teachers start. The students will go right to their classroom, their first period classroom, and they'll have that time in that classroom to kind of get settled in. All of our classes would start 15 minutes later than that. So that'll kind of be the time when the students come into the school in that 15-minute window. The other thing that's a little unique at the high school is we are going to have that one-way foot traffic pattern, that safety pattern. Our hallways are fairly narrow at the high school, so as much as possible in just about every hallway, but 1.5, it'll be a one-way foot traffic pattern. So an extra minute was added to the passing time just to allow that to happen, so students don't feel rushed getting from class to class. So that will be a little different feel, but we feel it's a safe. Based on safety, it's definitely something that's going to be useful getting around. I think, you know, the only other area that, you know, Tom touched base and Darcy did as well is those different areas where students come in. So we're really going to try to focus on 3 separate doors where a third of our population will come in each one of those areas. So in the end, about 115 students will be entering, 120 students will be entering each one of those doorways. So it shouldn't be a situation where it's overcrowded. And we are going to have 2 staff members on. I believe both buildings will have 2 staff members at each one of those doors, an administrator and most likely a guidance counselor, basically to check in with each student and to make sure that everyone's following the proper safety procedures as they enter the building.
Thank you, Dave and Tom. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to 2 elementary principals, Shannon and Cindy, when you're ready.
Okay, good evening. I'm going to be doing the recap for both of us for the elementary level.
Okay.
So a lot of the same themes that you've heard in the secondary plan. You know, entering the building is going to look a little bit different at both schools to try to limit some of that traffic that goes in. If you've ever been up at ACES in particular at arrival or dismissal, you know that there's 300 kids plus going out one door and 300 going out the other. At both schools, RCS and ACES, we have developed a wider point of entry. So at ACES, there'll be 4 points of entry and egress, and at RCS there will be 3. Little bit change to our schedule as far as tardy and dismissals, much like Dave referenced that we can't be as flexible as we've been in the past. So if your student is tardy, parent will have to walk them in and sign them in the vestibule. They'll be able to come all the way into the office. And for dismissals, something that we are going to be looking to have is that dismissals, early dismissals have to be completed by 2:45. Because as we're doing that staggered dismissal, if we have parents coming in within that last 15 minutes to pick up their student, it will become more cumbersome and a safety risk for students. We're gonna have to limit, ACES has a lot of visitors in particular. We're gonna have to limit some of those visits. Changes, I mean, we're very fortunate in both schools that we are able to accommodate the distancing requirements. RCS benefits from the smaller school and lower enrollment, and ACES has those big, beautiful classrooms. So we're able to make that spacing guidelines. We're able to implement them pretty easy. I wouldn't say easily, but it's doable and it's not particularly cumbersome. A change to our schedule though for elementary students will be the lunch and recess. Lunch and recess will still be happening, but because we are trying to utilize the space and we have to limit how many can be in a cafeteria at one time or classroom, typically students have lunch and then go right to recess. And that may look a little different in scheduling, where they may have lunch, return to class, and go to recess, a half hour or an hour later. So the timing of recess is what's changing. But not the amount of recess or that they're going to have it every day, but it might be a little change for students and parents who are really acclimated with the system as we've had it.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. Cindy, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, the team from ACES and I worked on this together and we felt that we had a lot of similarities. So we feel like what we've put forward is doable given the guidelines.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So I want to make sure parents are clear. The full reopening is one of our options. The other option that the state has asked us to prepare for is a hybrid model. And what I will be doing is on the 21st, which is next Tuesday night at 6 o'clock, I will be introducing people to that. Just to give you a couple of highlights on what that looks like is the potential of only half the school population would be in building at any given day. Each building will split their student population in cohort A and B, and special ed students with intensive supports would be in on both days A and B. This is just a quick snapshot of that, but that is another model in which we are looking at for the district. And then the last one is really a full remote learning plan. This would have students working online through Google Classroom and Google Meets. All students would be assigned a Chromebook so that every student in our district has a Chromebook. Families would be assessed for needs and provided support for online learning if they qualify. So if you didn't have internet and that was something you qualified for, we would do our best to offer that in the districts. Students would be graded and attendance would be expected following the district attendance policy. Special education students with high needs would have added support when needed. And the written plan of completion for this document will be the first week of August. Now, I know parents out there are wondering, what does this all mean as far as September and when we open? What we are doing is tomorrow, parents should receive in their email a survey to fill out for each one of their children, letting us know, one, if you had the opportunity for a hybrid model, would you choose, for a remote learning model for your student, would you choose it? And the other question is really about transportation and whether you are planning to bring your student to school or take them on the buses. This information will then be used to help guide myself and the school committee on a decision as to what our fall reopening will look like. All three of these models, the state has had us put together. However, to me right now, based on the surveys we've already gotten back to parents, I think the district is leaning, and I want to use the word leading because I don't want to say definitively until the school committee has an opportunity to look at it all. But I think we'll be leaning towards an opportunity for people to either come back fully to school or to do a remote learning program. And so that is what we are leaning towards at the moment, but we will by the 1st of August, have a definitive answer for everyone. But what is extremely, extremely important at this point is that families fill out the surveys that they receive. They will need to fill out one survey for each child in your home. So you won't be able to put on the survey all of your children's names and fill out one. You have to fill out one for each individual child. The good news is you can do it right online. If you have a cell phone with internet or a computer, you will be able to fill it out and get it in. And we're asking all parents to get that back to us by no later than July 30th. I will have further details on each one of these plans at our meeting next week for our parent and community meeting as we move forward. I'm trying my best right now to get out things as they evolve. Please know and understand, we just received from the commissioner less than a week and a half ago that he wanted these plans and wanted us to present these to the community. So we're moving as quickly as we can to get the information out to everyone. That's what I have on the fall reopening. I guess at this point, if anybody has questions.
Just before I lose track of it, there is one in the chat. It says, have you considered the use of pods of 12 and 13 students? Some districts are, which means students are with the same classmates all day, thus limiting the number of students who might be exposed to a classmate who is exhibiting symptoms.
Where we are at right now is we will be doing at the elementary level pods for sure, probably right up through 8th grade. The dilemma with the high school situation is Kids don't necessarily share the same classes. So even if I have math with you, I may have English with someone else. And because of electives and such, it's more difficult to do at the high school. But I think what people will see is in grades pre-K through 8, kids will be set up in a pod model.
Thank you. Committee members, Mitch, I see your hand up. You're muted.
There we go, sorry. I just wanted to clarify, Darcy, mostly for the people at home, that the plan that we're putting forth for full-time school, for those who choose that, is still at this point a draft plan and can't be finalized until the beginning of August. So there's always a possibility of some changes, but this is the plan that we have at this point. Is that correct?
That is correct. So I am, as I said, based on parent surveys, what I'm going to probably be recommending the school committee is an option either for fully in school or an option for remote learning based on what I'm hearing from parents. But we want to make sure we have all the information written out so parents can really make a decision for themselves, but that most likely will be the recommendation I'll be making to the school committee.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tammy.
Just a question from a student parent perspective. What will be what is the idea or the possibility if we do a full return of how students communicate and turn in work? Will it be through the Chromebooks that we'll be issuing? I guess I'm wondering the passing back and forth of paper and projects. What will that look like for our students on a daily basis sitting in a classroom?
Right. Our goal is to get our teachers proficient in the use of Google Classroom. And because of that, then we go paperless. That's the nice thing about Google Classroom is that you can do the paperwork right online and submit it right there. And so that is our goal. I don't know that we will start the year that way, but our goal is as our teachers become more and more proficient in that area, less and less paper would be used.
There is another question in the chat area. In regards to cleaning and disinfecting the school, what methods being used?
Yes, there are 2 methods that we will be using. In the evening only, we'll be using a fogging system. We have posted the product we will be using online so that if families want to take a look at it and see exactly what the contents are and such, you can do that now. If you go to the district website, it is posted there. And the other would be obviously our regular chemicals we've been using throughout any school year to do those high touch areas through spray bottles and the wiping using cloth.
Thank you. Any further committee member questions? Okay, I don't see. Oh, Carla, go ahead. You are muted.
I have been trying to buy cleaning products, home cleaning products at local stores of various kinds. They're all out. Disinfecting products particularly. I think this has to do with a lot of businesses opening up and being very conscientious about cleaning their premises regularly. My question is, are we certain of being able to get enough cleaning products to do the type of cleaning that we need to do?
Yes, I spoke to our facilities manager, Steve Femino, and he has assured me that the product will be in before the start of the school year. We currently have plenty of our regular products on site now that we are using, but in addition, the fogging system is online to be ready to go with all that we need for the opening of school.
Tammy.
Just a quick note that I wrote down, the ventilation systems at the various schools. I understand ACES is very new. What does that evaluation process look like in terms of timing, and what potentials should we look for going forward? What cost would we be looking at going forward? And if it's cost prohibitive, would we just automatically consider a hybrid model with less children or fully remote?
Yeah. That's a good question. I cannot give you the answer at this time. We reviewed the CDC guidelines today, They've made some recommendations for some ventilation systems that you can put through a window. If necessary, that I hear is of low cost, but I have not had a chance to price them yet. And so that is an option in buildings where it may not meet the standard. We're just going over what those standards are now, looking at the CDC guidelines to see if it meets that circulation process they're looking for. And if not, that's the items that we would be looking to purchase or buy for each building. Right now, we have set aside, I believe, about $25,000 to $30,000 for extra supplies for the district. So we do have a little bit in our coffers from our CARES Act money that we received for the state in these cases. So we do have something in the coffers for that if needed.
Thank you. Just going back over to the chat area, because I don't want to miss anybody, but what's the maximum class size with the intended 3-foot distance?
Right now, we're looking at about 20 students per classroom with the 3-foot distancing. That's about what we can get into rooms. There may be a couple of rooms where we can go 1 or 2 students over, depending on the class size, but the majority of the classes are going to be 20 or less.
Okay, and also, is there any information on long-term effects of these multiple cleaning products exposure on children specifically?
Someone had asked me that question earlier today. We're looking into that as we speak. They do come highly recommended. These are products that were used in schools long before COVID ever came about. And it is recommended by the EPA. So we feel pretty strongly it is a good product, but we're going to see what we can find as far as children exposure. But we do know that this product in particular is recommended by the EPA.
And we would most likely have chemical names and SDS sheets. So I mean, somebody to that person that put that in the chat box, if you have specific concerns, you can certainly contact the central office and they can assist you further with specific chemical information.
It is posted online, Lee, at this time, so they can't go to the website and get that information now.
Okay, thank you. And also one other question, I think, can you, I had some concerns about the DESE as well as this person that typed it in over there in the chat box, going to a 3-foot model rather than the 6-foot model that's in place everywhere else. Can you kind of describe what would the district look like if we had to do the 6-foot distancing?
I want to make sure I'm clear with you. A lot of school systems are looking at the 3 feet, not the 6 feet. If we went to 6 feet, we are looking at class sizes that would run about 10 students. If we did that, the dilemma we have with the number of staffing we have, we would have to go to almost 3 cycles during the week in order to get all the kids in. I think it is something the district could entertain half classes, which would be at those numbers around 12 to 13 or 14 kids in each room. I think that's something we could entertain in that hybrid model, which means kids would either go to school half a day, or the other option is they go 3 days on, 3 days off, or the option could be 1 week on, 1 week off. I know in the survey results from parents, and this is one of the things we need to think about for some parents, they were trepidatious about that because if they had to work, trying to set up their schedules for work was going to be extremely difficult if their child wasn't in school all day. And so that's why at this point, one of the things I'm saying is maybe looking at the full reentry or the home might be the better option for our district, because it sounded like for some of our families, if they have to navigate a half a day or every other week in, may be difficult for their children. I mean, for their family to work.
Sorry. Just to follow up to that, would the 6-foot distancing and class sizes, et cetera, does that take into consideration potentially using larger spaces for classes, you know, the libraries, the, you know, gymnasiums, or putting up temporary plexiglass or whatever, would that be a possibility if parents, I mean, I've heard a lot of things from parents versus full reopening versus hybrid, 3 feet versus 6 feet. So, I mean, would we be able to accommodate more of a full school type scenario if we utilize those other spaces in some form?
Even in using the spaces, the large spaces, every school probably has 3 large spaces. So even if you were to look at the large spaces, even if you were to cut them in half, you're looking at about 6 classrooms that could use the large spaces. And in each building, with the exception of Royalston, you are looking at a minimum of 25 groups of children in each building. And so that is not necessarily a feasible option for us for a full day's worth of schooling. No, we have looked deeply at that. When we did the 6-foot option and we really put the chairs in the classroom, and there wasn't in any room in the district were we able to put more than 12 or 13 desks in a room. And in most of them, we could barely get in 10. So I think an option might be to go a little less, but not quite 3 feet, to get about half the classroom in. What might be an option in using the hybrid model. But if we want to be at 6 feet, that means at most grade levels, we're looking at 3 different cohorts of kids. And that, I think, is really going to water down learning for students. That's my worry, because if they're only able to get in to see their teacher once a week or at tops a day and a half a week, I'm concerned us being a learning institution is going to go out the window because we're not going to be able to properly educate our kids. But I think it is something we could definitely consider, the hybrid with either half a day in, half a day out, or the other being, so many days in, so many days out. But I do want to note that about 50% of our parents stated in their surveys that they want the kids back in school full time, and because they have to work. And so that's one of the things that we have been looking at. I mean, another option is, which we could look at, is having our secondary students 7 through 12 go every other week, and have all of our elementary students go during the day. And what we could do is, rather than having those extra supports in place, we still have special ed in place, but like Title I teachers, taking them, making them regular classroom teachers, in which case we could get the numbers down in the rooms to lower numbers. That's another option that we could definitely talk about, which might accommodate both sides, because parents who are working, if their secondary students 7 through 12 were home, I think they could trust in that, them being home and being able to do what they need. But the younger ones, I think there's a real concern about them being home and not having a parent available. So that is also something I think we can discuss and talk about. But at the end of the day, we are going to have to make a decision, I think, by the 1st of August in order for our district to be prepared and ready for opening. But I think those are all, I want to make sure parents understand these are all still on the table. And the other piece is we do have to negotiate this with the school unions.
And then another follow-up, so then we can move on and we can get specific to the chat box answers offline or whatever. But teachers and staff and et cetera, what is the plan for training for proper PPE use, et cetera? Is that something that you would do during the time frame prior to the opening, when the staff's in early?
Yes, one of the things we're hearing from the Commissioner of Education at this time is being in a situation where he may cut down the number of days we have to be in school with children, so that we can do that training at the start of the year. So he is saying he might cut down to 177 or 175 days. So that will give us that intense time we need with teachers to train them on all of these protocols before students come into the building.
Okay, thanks. Mitch, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Regarding the last question, I very much appreciate the work that the team has done and how receptive they are to parents' questions and to parents' concerns and to parents' input. But I noted, if I'm correct, that question was asked not only of the superintendent, but of the school committee, if I'm correctly, in terms of the way it was phrased, how do the members of the school committee feel? And so I wanted to respond to that, if that's the case.
Question, Mitch. Which
The
question?
original, the question about the 3-foot distance.
Okay, yeah, no, it says everyone. I mean, if you want to comment, just raise your
Right.
hand.
Well, since it was asked of the school committee, I wanted to voice the fact that we, of course, are concerned. Our ultimate concern is the safety of the children as well, with the education of those children falling right behind that as well. So we have to be concerned about both of those. And regarding the 3-foot distance, which I think the writer noted was differed from what the CDC recommended as optimal at 6 feet. But I know that there's disagreement with that at very highest levels. And I'm reading here, the World Health Organization recommends just 3 feet of physical distancing, while some emerging evidence suggests that the coronavirus can spread over much greater distances, and that their 3-foot guideline follows some of the earliest research into how diseases spread. Also, from another article from the medical press, while most public health officials recommend you put 6 feet between yourself and others, a new review of 172 studies from 16 countries concluded that keeping 3 feet apart might also protect you to some degree. And while face mask and eye protection might add even more layers of protection, these precautions aren't 100% foolproof, the researchers added. Still, the Canadian study found that face masks, eye protection, and keeping at least 3 feet away from people gives you the best chance of avoiding infection. So while, as the superintendent said, 6 feet, maybe optimal, it's a matter of every school system and every teacher and every parent has to decide for himself or herself how much risk is acceptable in order to bring the children back to school in what we hope will be a safe situation for the children. But my point was that there is certainly some differences of opinion regarding 3 feet versus 6 feet. And as I said at the last meeting, the superintendent will certainly encourage teachers that whenever possible, we remain at a 6-foot distance, but where that's not possible in most classrooms, for example, we'll go with the 3-foot distance that was recommended by the World Health Organization.
Thank you. Carla.
I'm a little bit nervous about the 3-foot distancing myself because it's not, there's no consensus as to whether that is safe. I was struck by the most recent suggestion coming from Darcy, which seems like a creative solution to the problems that a lot of parents have expressed with the hybrid model. It is really a killer for working parents. But if we look at it in the way that Darcy suggested, which is the elementary kids go full time and the upper grades go 1 week on and 1 week off, that actually seems to me to answer some of the objections of the parents who were objecting so vehemently to the hybrid model. I think it's just worth exploring more for the safety of the kids. Maybe should be asking parents about that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. So if we haven't answered directly to the chat people, certainly we'll have it, and we can get back to you or whatever works best. Moving on, kindergarten registration.
Yes, at this point, I'd like Amy Langdon to come on to speak to you about where we are currently in that process. Amy?
Hi, good evening, everybody. So right now we have 65 students, kindergarten students that are currently registered. That's about half of our total typical kindergarten population. We usually have about 120 students between ACEs and RCS. At this time in the year, we typically have closer to 100 students registered. Usually, August is a pretty big rush. We typically get 20 to 30 kids registered in August, but we're still way below the numbers that we are typically at. We don't know why. It could be that this is just a naturally a small class, that there weren't a lot of kids born this time 5 years ago. However, we also have concerns that there are a lot of people out there that haven't registered their kids for one reason or another, whether it's because they're waiting to see what the district is going to decide to do, or if they're nervous about COVID, or multiple of variety of reasons. So I just wanted to put it out there. We've done some outreach. I've reached out to all of the local daycares and preschools that I've had contact with in the past, letting them know that registration is still going on. I'm letting all of you now know that registration is still going on. We've sent out all calls, we've sent out emails, we posted on Facebook. I've talked to Shirley Mitchell at the high school to find out, she's reaching out to some of the people she knows, but really we need to get the word out that kindergarten registration is happening, and that we are hoping for as many people to register early as possible so that we can make plans. It's really hard to make plans with only about half of the there's a registration packet to fill out. Parents can either get that off of the ARRS site, download it, fill it out, and you can take pictures of it. You can use your phone to scan it. You can mail it in, or you can
Oops, I think we may have lost Amy. But I think what she was saying basically is that the packets you can get them online. You can go to your school and pick them up. Either way is appropriate. You can even mail them in if necessary. But I think what is most essential here is that people understand that registration is open, and we're looking to make sure those kids who are ready to go into kindergarten are registering for September. Does anybody have any questions?
Nancy.
I was just wondering, do we know what the numbers are for preschool?
Right now, where we are at is my understanding is we have, I believe, and don't quote me on this, I think there are 60 students right now for preschool that we're looking at. But Amy could give you that if she gets back on. Unfortunately, we lost her. Oh, there she is.
Sorry.
Amy, that's okay, Amy. They're asking how many.
My internet dropped right in the middle of me speaking. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. So the question is, how many kids do we have currently registered for preschool?
For preschool, right now we have 45 for our 4-year-old groups. Our 3-year-old groups are a little bit more difficult to name a number because we get them throughout the course of the school year. So the way that pre-K works is as soon as the child turns 3, that's when they're eligible for pre-K. And we're obligated as a district to provide services for students that require IEP services when they turn 3. The problem is we don't really know if they're going to require IEP services. So we have to sort of keep a spot open for them. We're anticipating about 35 students will turn 3 over the course of the school year that may or may not require services. So right now we have, I think we have 8 in our 3-year-old classes, but that, by September 10th, we'll get 2 more because they'll have turned 3. By October 15th, I think we've got like 10 more because they'll have turned 3. So it continues to grow, and it grows quite rapidly. So, right now and typically when I say 45 students, right now we have 3 pre-K teachers. They each can have a morning group of 15 and an afternoon group of 15. You know, right now we're full. We're working on different options, but as of right now, that's what we have.
Thank you.
Just to wrap up what I was saying before, we are asking parents to drop off registration paperwork at ACES because there's no school secretary at our Boylston resident or an Athol resident. All paperwork can come to the ACES main office or be emailed to us, mailed into us, faxed, whatever, we'll take it. And the other big thing that's different this year is that we are not requiring original birth certificates or original copies of originals of things. We will accept copies of anything, just to make it that much easier for parents who are trying to get us the information. If anybody has any other questions, you can certainly reach me at ACES or email me alangdon@arsd.org.
Thank you. Any questions regarding that? Bill, are you adjusting your phone or do you want to ask a question? And you're muted.
Thanks. I was adjusting my phone.
Okay, thank you. Parent survey.
We've already discussed that, Lee, so I think we can move on to the next agenda item.
Technology update.
I'm excited to let the school committee know that I spoke to Ed Skutnik this morning, and the Chromebooks are now due to arrive prior to the start of school so that we can make sure every student has a one-to-one device going into the beginning of the school year. So I just wanted to make sure the committee was aware of that.
Thank you. 3D printing machines.
What we are looking for is, as I had said earlier, we want to make sure every staff member has a face shield, and we want to make sure that every student who needs a face shield gets one, who can't wear a mask. And so what we're looking to do is we have a set of teachers who are willing to print them, but it takes about an hour to do each one on our 3D printers. So we're requesting, if it's okay by the school committee, that we move the 3D printer machines to people's homes so that they can work on printing these and they're not running back and forth to the building to do that every hour. So we wanted to see if that was okay by the school committee. If so, we'll be able to begin printing those face shields ASAP for our staff members.
I certainly am not opposed to that. I think it's a good idea that, you know, they're willing to do it. But again, running in and out of the building, et cetera, I think if we can avoid that, that's great. I don't know if any other committee member has a difference of opinion that they would like to put forth, or is everybody all right with it? Mitch?
Well, first of all, I want to say I very much appreciate those people who are taking the time to do this. I'm wondering just a little bit on the cost factor that's involved in the making of these shields, because I know that I ordered 10 for myself from Amazon, and it was $36, which amounts to $360 a piece. And it doesn't seem like it's a major cost to order them in bulk. And I'm wondering if we're actually saving some real money doing it on these 3D printers, or if it will be just as easy and savings of time and energy from the staff that are, and if we just ordered, you know, 100 or 200 or 300 off of Amazon or some other place.
Where we are at is we are lucky that I want to give great credit to Starrett. They have given us all the product. So it's just the time for people to print. And so it's a lot more cost effective for us to do it in-house than for us to order online for our staff members.
Well, that's certainly the perfect answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would,
Go ahead, Nancy.
I do agree that I think it is a good thing to let them work out of their house. As Mitch said, they're doing a great job. So whatever makes them comfortable to do it.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
I don't know if we need to do a vote, Lee, or not, or for the committee.
I
Otherwise,
mean, I think we got a consensus. So I mean, I don't think it requires a formal vote, so that's fine. Student activity audit agreement. Lynn, would that be you?
I'm going to turn that over to Lynn.
Okay, I think you've got the Melanson Heath agreement in your packet. Basically, the student activity accounts are required by DESE to be audited every 3 years. We actually have been doing it on an annual basis. We didn't do fiscal 19, but we do want to do fiscal 20. So the agreement here is to do the audit, and the cost is $5,000. And I believe that's the same cost that we had last year, so it's in the budget.
Is there a motion, Mitch?
Yeah, so I would make a motion to sign this contract at the cost indicated, which, as you said, I think it's $5,000.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. I think I saw Deb first, kind of simultaneously. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. The vote to ARP project ban.
So also in your packet, you should see there should be a two-sided sheet from Hilltop Securities. They did the bid for the ARP project, meaning this is just a temporary ban until we get the audit finished. And right now, my understanding is MSBA has us on their October committee meeting, where they will finish up the audit and tell us what they're going to reimburse us for the last piece of it. So this note here just pulls us into October and November until we can permanently bond. So the only one that bid was Oppenheimer and Company for the $1,800,000, and the rate is 1.2893. So we just need you to vote to approve Oppenheimer and Company
So
for
moved.
the note.
Motion by Ken, is there a second?
Second.
Bill? Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Vote to approve $52,045 for Leslie University.
Okay, again, there's a services agreement in your folder for all the PD dates. It gives you a description, professional development and coaching for mathematics curriculum, full PD dates and full coaching dates. A lot of them there, if you see it right on the first page. We had a similar agreement in fiscal 20 with Leslie, and I think it was like $45,000, and you did vote it to go into school choice, but we were able to, at the end of the year, take it out of school choice and put it into our general fund PD because we had the funds there. So same thing here, we would start it in school choice funding if you would vote it that way. And if we do see that the general funds loosen up, we will transfer it over to the general fund.
Is there a motion? Carla moved it. Is there a second? Nancy?
second.
I saw Nancy. Nancy's kind of in a dark ambiance looking living room or something. I can't really see her, so, but I did see that. Any discussion?
right.
That's okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. Vote to approve the use of school choice funds to hire an additional unified arts teacher at Arms.
Okay, Darcy might want to jump in on this one. This actually, I believe we brought it up at Budget Sub last night, and it's actually 3 additional staff. Unified arts teacher at Arms.
Well, Josh?
And a social studies teacher at Arms.
Good.
And a social studies teacher at the high school. Is that correct, Darcy?
That is correct. And the reason why we're asking for these positions to get to at least the 3-foot distancing, we need these these bodies in order to ensure that, because right now what's happening is In most of the grade levels at the middle school, there are 5 homerooms, and only 4 unified arts teachers. So if we switch into unified arts, the numbers will blow up. And at the 7th grade level right now, we have approximately 123 kids in 7th grade. And so we need to add an additional teacher to that grade level to get those numbers down. And lastly, at the high school, that is the only department that has 3 teachers rather than 4. So we need to get them to 4 so that those numbers are appropriate for a minimum of 3 feet distancing at the high school in the social studies classes. So that's why we're putting forth those recommendations. And just like before, what we are saying is if during the year we find that we can take this money out of the general fund, we will switch it over into the general fund or to one of our grants. Right now, we are assessing the funds that the governor said that we were going to get. We may be able to put some in there, but we just want to be able to hire now. And so we're requesting it from school choice with the understanding that if we can find another medium for that, we will move it in there.
I make the motion that we use school choice funds to hire the additional teachers.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next, move to Dupre Law Office's retainer. You were emailed a copy of the retainer. It is the same current level at $4,000 a month, which includes attendance at school committee meetings and unlimited hours worked under the retainer. And there's no additional charges. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Mitch.
Just before voting aye, I want to congratulate Attorney Dupre on the work that he's done for us and look forward to him continuing with us for the foreseeable future.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mitch.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Communications, there are none. Financial statements and approval of accounts.
Okay, expenditure report. On your expenditure report, I'll just note a couple of things. On page 2, you see all the office supplies are all gone negative. We asked all the principals and administrative staff to order their fiscal 21 supplies using fiscal 20 funds because we do have the funds available. So that's why you see them go negative. So that is an okay thing. I wanted to point that out to you. And also on page 5, you see all the library supplies and all the general supplies again. There are a lot of negative line items there, but that is because they are ordering their fiscal 21 supplies in fiscal 20. We still have a very healthy bottom line in the fiscal 20 expenditure budget, so we are still okay. Even in athletics, if you go to page 7, you'll see that athletics ordered a whole bunch under high school athletic expenses, and that line item is $54,000, but the whole budget for athletics is still positive at $93, so he stayed within his budget, but he did order some fiscal 21 supplies. We filled the oil tanks in June, so all the oil tanks starting for September are all full, ready to go. So that's a good thing. And then on page 10, this is where I'll be asking for the line item transfer. We do have our new copiers in, 5 new copiers at ACES Elementary School and 1 new copier in the special education department. So that line item's gone over by $32,000. I will request a budget line for that. The bottom line right now, and we are expecting to have 2 more warrants, because as you know, we don't get all of our June bills in by June 30th. They're still coming in. I believe Carrie emailed out 2 warrants tonight to everybody to approve. One is a fiscal 21 warrant and one would be a fiscal 20 warrant. So as that fiscal 20 posts here, we'll see some more changes for the August expenditure report. But we still are estimated to see, I believe we're going to see an E&D about $800,000 for fiscal 20. So that's the expenditure report. Any questions on that?
Carla.
Lynn, for once, I see a question here that you didn't highlight.
Okay.
This is page 5. It's the outside professional development providers, where the budget is heavily negative there. I understand why that's necessary, but where's the money coming from?
Yes, actually, I just explained that the Leslie PD that we put into school choice.
Okay.
We actually had the room to put it back into the general fund. And the reason why I say that, Carla, is the categories may be negative, but when you look at the bottom line, we're still positive $800,000 in this budget. So that's why we were able to take Leslie out of our school choice and put it over here. So yes, you see the negative line item there, correct. Good catch.
You're usually so good about, highlighting all this stuff.
Missed that one, missed that one.
Yeah.
Anything else on the expenditure report? Good to go? All right, we'll go on to the revenue report. I penciled in over on the right-hand side. This is what I believe we're gonna see as our revenue budget. We're gonna see a budget increase of about 147,000. So what happens when your revenue goes over is that actually is added to E&D as well. So not only are what you save in your expense budget, but also what you go over in your revenue budget. So that's why I'm saying when I look at the expenditure report, I see a 700,000, and on my revenue report, I see 147. So I think we're gonna certify around 850. But again, we still got a couple warrants to go. So other than that, the revenues are all in and posted. And like I said, I think we're seeing a healthy revenue report with $147,000 more than what we expected. Any questions on revenue?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Just the usual question about a big change in school choice figures. Is that more students choicing in or fewer choicing out?
I'm not understanding your question.
The revenue report, you have a figure for what looks to me like I guess it's
600,000.
600,000 plus 600,000 plus.
Yes, 600,000, Carla, is what was voted by the school committee for the budget, to use for the budget. So if we needed to tap into the school choice funds to keep our revenue budget positive, we would do that. We haven't had to do that, so we've been very lucky.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right, anything else on revenue? Okay, so let's go to the budget line transfer. The request is to transfer out of health insurance $32,651 to cover those expenses for those copiers. One in the SPED office for 5601 and the 5 in the ACES building for 27059. And I had $1 negative in one account number that I needed to cover. So the total budget line transfer is $32,651.
So moved. Ken?
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the next thing on our list is our grant expenses. We're still closing up grants at this point, but they all look like they're closing up well. We're going to roll over as much as we can in Title I, Title IIA, and Title IV, because we're not quite sure what we're going to get for fiscal 21 yet. I think Darcy just got some figures today on some grants, and we're just starting to look at those. So I haven't been able to look at those figures compared to what we have now to see if we're going to get any cuts or not. Darcy, I don't know if anything rang a bell with you when you looked at them today. I know it was quick when it came in.
Yes. At this point, I do not want to say because I don't want to be misquoted.
Okay.
But I hope within the next week we'll be able to get that information to the school committee for Title I, Title II, A, Title IV, and there was one other title. I can't remember which one it is right now. Yeah, we've got those original figures from the feds, and we'll be able to let you know whether that's within what we expected or less. within the next week.
Okay, and I just have one other item under other. We did have, again, a budget sub last night, and we went over the high school walkthrough results that Darcy and David and Steve, I guess, went through. And I believe there's a recommendation, and jump in, Nancy, if you want. I believe there was a recommendation to go ahead and do the cafeteria furniture, the painting of the cafeteria, and the cafeteria chairs, because all of that funding is coming from the cafeteria fund, which is very healthy. Last night I reported, I thought it was about 139,000. When I looked at it today, it was 169,000. So because of April, May, and June, and the additional meals that we were providing and busing to everybody, that fund just exploded. I mean, it's looking really well. I don't think I've ever been in a school district where I've seen that much in food services before. So I think we can afford $18,000 to do some cafeteria furniture, some painting in the cafeteria, and some cafeteria chairs, if you were to go ahead and vote that.
Lee,
Is there a motion? Nancy?
as chair of the budget committee did meet, and we do recommend for a vote for the full school committee the recommendations Lynn has just set forth.
I'll take that as a motion. Is there a second?
No second.
Okay. Tammy, I'll choose, 4 hands went up at the same time, so I'm trying to spread it out a little bit. Any discussion? Ken?
I thought we purchased some cafeteria furniture with some school choice funds recently.
Yes, we did. And essentially 2 things happened, Ken. One, the round tables we bought because of 6-foot distancing, we can't use. So that's one of the issues we're having right now. And the other issue is in the original bid, they forgot to put the chairs that go with the high tops that we have the high tops without any chairs. So we need to purchase those to complete the cafeteria. And just so you know, our cafeteria it will be much more modernized. There are actually booths for kids now. They can choose a high top like in a cafe or a regular cafeteria chair. So there's multiple ways in which to sit and enjoy your experience in the high school caf now. So it's quite nice.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions for Lynn?
I have one more thing from last.
Okay. Yep.
If that vote, is that vote all set?
No,
No.
we haven't voted.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item was painting 9 more classrooms, also including the food pantry and shelving in the food pantry, estimated at $9,250. That would be funded from the extraordinary maintenance budget line, the $50,000 that we have in our budget. And again, Nancy, I believe the budget sub agreed to recommend that, but that's up to you.
Yes, Lynn. So the budget subcommittee would like to make a motion to accept painting of the areas.
Second.
Bill? Okay, discussion. Ken?
While we're on the subject of the food pantry, I believe there was supposed to be a door that was installed so that there wouldn't be access into the rest of the building. And also because of the situation we're on with the pandemic, will we be opening the food pantry?
Yes, our plan is to open it for September. The door, we just got the vendor to give us a bid on that, so we didn't have the figures for tonight, but we will have a door that will keep people from accessing the regular building. They will be able to walk in right into the pantry and out the back door of the building without having access to the school. So we are planning for the opening. We have also been able, with the extra funds from the cafeteria, to pay for the refrigerator unit that needs to be put in there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mitch, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to make an overall comment. Having worked on a budget for just 2 schools as a principal, I know full well how much work goes into a budget and how Lynn and the superintendent do this so well year in and year out, week in and week out with such dexterity and skill, to me is nothing short of amazing. So if I haven't said thank you to you recently, let me say it now.
Thank you very much, Mitch.
Thank you, Mitch.
Okay, anybody else? All right. Strategic plan. There is.
We have to vote. Do we have to
Oh, I'm
vote?
sorry. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Strategic plan update. There isn't anything for this evening.
Correct, there is nothing.
Okay. Reports of the committee. The only thing I have this evening is I would like to pass along to the committee some unique interactions with members of the public, parents, and the circulating comment. Whoop, Bill readjusted his phone again. The comments that are unusual is this. People have been asking me if students, staff, etc., are expected to go back to school in a live setting. How long will the school committee remain with Zoom meetings? I think that it's a discussion that we need to have. I think for now we should plan on the August meeting being a Zoom meeting and play it kind of on a month-to-month scenario, because certainly under these current times, I am not, if there's a high-risk individual on the committee or people are not comfortable with attending a live meeting, I certainly believe that under the current emergency laws, et cetera, we could have the technology to have those who would rather not be in a live setting on a monitor or something at the meeting so they could still participate. I'm not concerned about that. Members of the committee have the same rights as students and staff members, et cetera. If they're not comfortable and they're not going to come back, then that's what we have to accept. I personally have no issue returning, but I don't want to do it too soon. And I don't want to do it to jeopardize anybody's health, just like the district is going to make the utmost best decision for reopening in the interest of students' safety and also student education. So, I mean, we always hear about masks and people don't want to do this, but we need to realize that we are in the education business, so we have to put together the best plan that allows us to do that. So I just wanted to let the committee know as a whole, the public is watching and the public is asking that. But again, input's welcome. Deb, I see your hand.
My thought is that the August meeting, it's in the middle of the month, and by then we're going to have a better idea of what our opening is going to look like. And if we're planning to have a full opening with all the students coming back, I think we probably maybe ought to keep it on hold for a minute and maybe consider a live meeting in August. Just kind of give follow that we have faith in being there, that
right. And I have no concern with that. And I agree, but the only situation right now is still the group size. And what happens, I mean, we have 50 people on here this evening. If we were to get, God forbid, 100, people coming to hear that meeting, we would still be against the state guidelines because it is kind of still a group of 100. So I think we can leave it open. We don't have to decide right now. That's fine. But as we approach it, we should, just do what's right. And again, absolutely nothing held against anybody that doesn't want to attend live, and we'll make amends to, try to work that out. It's just going to be a matter of spacing and how we do. We've had one meeting back in March, I believe, that had the live function feature where we were all spread out. Again, but we have to also realize that some of the public may attend these, so we're going to have to just come up with a plan. Mitch, you're muted.
My only question would be as to what the purpose of that be. Is it simply a public relations kind of thing? Because the question is, are we gaining anything or are we losing anything? Are we losing anything by meeting remotely? It's not the same situation as school for children. We all know how much children are losing by only receiving remote education. We all know the importance of those children coming back to school in as safe a way as possible, because there are so many things they can do in school that they can't do remotely. Can we say the same about these school committee meetings? Is there so much we can do in person that we can't do remotely? Or are we taking our health into our hands simply to prove the point?
I don't think we're trying to prove any point other than this is what the guidelines have been that we have to operate under, because when we first decided to partake in Zoom meetings, don't forget, the group size was 10. So just with the committee, Fred and Lynn being present, we were over by 2. And then at the administrative, so I mean, I think we've really only done this to kind of move forward as the state guidelines evolve. Subcommittees, certainly, you know, that's a smaller number. The public usually doesn't attend. So, you know, again, I got to leave it up to you guys. I mean, I'm not going to say, you know, we have to do live, or I'm not going to say, you know, we don't. I've just been kind of respective of the state guidelines. If you want to schedule a you know, for example, a policy subcommittee and you want to do it live, that's entirely up to you, the group of folks involved in that as adults, to make that decision. I mean, I've just been watching the guidelines. That's all I've been doing. Bill, then Carla.
I agree with what Mitch was saying, and I'm concerned about all of that. I don't have any problem having a live meeting for committee members. I'm talking about, of course, in the next month or two. Hopefully things clear up, but we'll have to wait and see. But I don't have any problem having a live meeting for committee members and administrators and attorney and necessary. But I would hold the line. I would draw the line at having the public there. I wouldn't be comfortable at all, because it could be a very large meeting. So if that was the choice that we were going with, I can tell you right now that I would attend, but I would do it as a Zoom meeting. I would not show up if all the public is there.
Fred, did you want to comment?
Well, I think we need to address this month by month. I see no reason why we would have an in-person meeting in August. And I think that we should do it remotely. However, when we get into September, I think we need to look at the data from the Commonwealth and see what the COVID-19 numbers look like. But I am concerned about large crowds at school committee meetings and potentially someone within that meeting having COVID-19, because we aren't going to be testing people as they come into the room. And, you know, we could have 50, 100 people come.
Right. And in fact, and Fred, can you confirm, if we post a public meeting in a public building, we cannot exclude the public, correct?
Yeah, if we're going to be physically there for the meeting, we have to allow the meeting in there as well. I haven't seen any guideline to the contrary.
Okay. And again,
the guidelines to the contrary deal with the Zoom meetings that we're doing right now.
Right. And again, I'm not, I'm personally not opposed. You know, I've been locked in the house for 12 weeks, basically working from home. You know, I'm ready to interact and look at people in real life. But again, I don't want to be that guy that says, let's do it. And then something happens. So again, we have time to roll towards the August 19th meeting. whether it's live or not. I mean, we don't have to decide that tonight. You know, we have a few weeks to be able to do that. So if it makes sense to try a live meeting, we can do it. But again, I'll leave that up to you. If you as adult members of the committee want to decide that you can't, by all means. I mean, that's a provision that we have to live with. Tammy. Carla, wait a minute. Let me recognize, I think I said Carla first, but
You did.
previously a while ago, I just forgot to look at her, then Tammy.
Just an observation. It has struck me that this format, the Zoom format, actually allows for somewhat more public participation than our regular in-person school committee meeting. You say there are 50 people signed in here. I thought I heard that. A whole bunch of them have asked questions and had their questions answered. They have the opportunity to follow the discussion. We can't possibly have a school committee meeting with 50 members of the public in there anytime in the next few months of a live school committee meeting. This seems to honor public participation more than the live meeting.
Right, and you know, we can also do things, you know, if there's enough, if there's groups of parents that need further information, or if, I mean, certainly the superintendent and myself can, you know, sit in a room with people. We would be well distanced, you know, in the room. There are things we can do, but again, I'm a little skittish about having the live meetings too soon. I haven't seen, you know.
This is Fred again. I think that we're going to need to circle back and see what the Commonwealth is saying, because these Zoom meetings are permitted through a special executive order to permit these Zoom meetings. At some point in time, I suspect they'll say you can't do that anymore, because this is an exception to ordinarily what would be required under the open meeting law.
Right, and I just don't know how long, you know, what's the new normal going to be consisting of with Zoom? Is Zoom meeting, you know, the select board isn't poised to move towards live meeting yet, and there's 5 members. So, you know, I think we just need to watch it, and we need to kind of glide towards August meeting and see what happens.
Right.
And
one
again,
last point, if I could.
Yep.
I didn't mean to interrupt. The last point is, I can also let you know what school systems and school committees are doing. To my knowledge, right now, none have begun live meetings.
Okay. Tammy.
So I would agree that we should tentatively plan August to definitely be Zoom. The schools and the children aren't expected to be there. I don't see why we would be in the building at that time. But if we're going to send 600 kids back into a building for a full reopening in September, I would say that the option to do at least the minimum of the committee with the attorney and the general people who need to be there, administrators in either an auditorium or a gymnasium. If we're going to expect our students to be there and our teachers and faculty and staff to be there, we should really think long and hard with what we're going to do for September when we get more guidance in a couple of weeks. I feel as though if I'm going to send my students, my 3 kids back, we should do something in September if we are going to put our kids and teachers who are just as susceptible to anything that we could catch. We should be in that setting with them. I would, as a parent, I question why we couldn't meet in person if you're sending 600 kids into a building with 50 administrators. It just
So I assume the school committee, this is Fred again, I assume the school committee could put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
And I think that would be fair to reassess in August when we do make a final decision for what we're going to do with our students. And again, everyone has to be the advocate for their own child and their own health. And if you feel you can't be in person, there's no reason why we can't do a partial in person. And then for those who do have those concerns, we could still do a live Zoom and have a moderator look at the chat and still be in a partial in person if need be. But if we're sending 600 kids into a building, we should be able to fit 50 people in. And that's my only comment. But I would say August, definitely we should continue with Zoom and put it on the schedule after we figure out what we're doing with our students and staff.
Right, and again, I wanted to bring it to the committee's attention. It's nothing that we have to decide tonight. But those comments are out there. But I just think we need to, things go through my head like 3-foot distances for kids, the school committees on Zoom. And I mean, this is stuff that we're hearing in the community. So just be aware that it's out there and we need to address it, but certainly we can adjust our school committee meetings to, for example, Athol High School auditorium, where we're up on the stage, distanced, and the socially distanced responsible seating of adults down in the galley there in the auditorium. I mean, that's extremely possible, and it probably is a lot better and meets the need rather than being crammed into the Arms Library, where everybody is directly. So again, let's move forward, and I think we really need to plan on August being a Zoom meeting for now, and if that changes, certainly I can get back to you and send an email or whatever, but that's just where we're at, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware. All right, Budget and Finance Subcommittee.
Between Lynn and Darcy, I believe our entire budget meeting was discussed, so I have nothing further to add to that.
Okay, thank you. Facilities, Ken?
Nothing to report.
Okay, negotiations, Nancy?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Academic excellence.
We have not met. I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Public relations.
Yes, we, unlike the other committees, we have been meeting very regularly. We've been, we're trying to meet weekly to talk about, to refine our communications with the public about the school reopening. And that has been at the request of the superintendent. And we met yesterday, actually, to look over some of the reopening plans. Darcy shared a lot of information. There is a possibility, should we be educating students remotely, there's a possibility of a statewide platform that could be used by kids who are doing remote learning. We have seen the plans developed by the principals for reopening, developed by the principals and staff for each school. One of the issues is they will probably, in order to maintain safe spacing on buses, there will probably be double runs of buses, which it will be slower getting the kids to the school. And Darcy has set up Zoom meetings with parents for next week, with herself and the principals at each school's individual principal. So she has a set of Zoom meetings scheduled. So it's very, there's a very, very deliberate and careful communication strategy for the parents in the district, which we've been able to help with.
Thank you, Mitch. You're muted.
Sorry,
No problem.
just tag teaming on that excellent report by Carla. I would like to encourage as many parents as possible to attend those Zoom meetings with the superintendent next week. And I'm wondering, Darcy, could you once again announce the date? And I don't know if you have the times of those meetings as well, but they're going to be very helpful to parents.
Yes. The first one is scheduled and it will be on Tuesday evening. And it will, I believe, starts at 6 o'clock. They can go. It is currently posted on the website. So if they go there, the links or the dial-in by phone information is located right on our district website.
Thank you. Policy.
We did not meet this month. I guess we're on our summer hiatus. But anyway, we do have two policies. One is an amendment for JFBB and a motion to accept the amendment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Carla. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
And the second policy is for second reading of JF, school admissions.
Is there a second?
Second, yeah.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye. And that's it.
Okay. Committee member referrals. Again, I'll go backwards. Oh, Darcy, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to make a recommendation that if it's amendable to the committee, we meet on August 4th so that we can make a decision, because waiting until our next August school committee meeting may be too late. So I was wondering if it was possible to see if the school committee was willing to meet on the 4th of August so that we can vote on a final plan for the district.
This would be, just to clarify, this would be to meet regarding the whatever opening is decided upon, that would be discussed as well as other, okay.
Yeah.
Tammy.
I just wanted to say August 4th is the rain date for the step-up ceremony for the middle school. So as long as it doesn't rain, I know that we won't have an issue with either myself attending or any of the school administration attending.
Okay. Any other comments about the moving the date to August 4th? Bill.
Is this a replacement for the August 19th, or are we going to have both meetings?
I would suggest we keep both on the agenda only because things are moving pretty rapidly. And I think it's important to keep the public and the school committee informed. On the 4th, the only agenda item would be a vote on the reopening plan. And hopefully all the school committee members would have my recommendation prior to that meeting. So I see it going very, very quickly. But I don't want to wait until the middle of the month because my worry is we won't be prepared for whatever we decide at if we wait that late in the month.
Thank you. That makes sense.
Okay. I do also want to remind this committee that there was a vote at the previous meeting to hold an executive session. So we need to schedule that. I need to know, what do you want to do? Do you want to do it on the 4th? Because it is a one agenda item meeting. I mean, that makes sense to me. Or do you want to hold it on the 19th? If we don't have a need to meet on the 19th, I mean, that would be okay. But if we're going to schedule a regular meeting on the 19th and have August 4th, I just need to know what date works better for everybody. Is there a preference? Carla.
I'd go with the 4th, just because if the 19th is a regular school committee meeting, it's gonna take all night. And I'd rather have it as an addition to a one item meeting.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So we'll move forward and take care of that business as we need to. Committee member referrals, Carla.
I'd just
go
like
ahead.
to note that there are two people who haven't had their questions answered in the chat box. Protocols for therapists coming in. And Greg wants to know, how do you get a group of 3 or 4-year-olds to abide by social distancing rules?
Darcy,
Yes.
you want to take a stab?
Sure, I'm happy to respond. I think what I would say to Greg is we can't, and that's why the extra PPE for those teachers. Ultimately, kids at that young age, I call them hands-on students, and it really is expected that they are going to want to touch and feel their environment. And so ultimately, getting extra PPE to those teachers is going to be critical to protect them. So that is our goal, is to put in place extra PPE. And also to, at this point, particularly with the preschool, look at our numbers and see if we can keep those classes at 10 or less because those kids are so hands-on. So that's what we're looking at. As far as the other question the parent asked, and I think Tammy did a good job answering it, is essentially parents hopefully will have a couple of options as to whether have their child in school or at home as the last final document comes into play. But I would suggest that parent come to next week's parent meeting, express their concerns at the time, and hear a little bit more detail about the plan.
Okay, thank you. Carla, was there another one?
Yeah, further up on the list, Dana Lynn Stockwood, what is the protocol for therapists coming into the schools?
Yes, John, I believe, is working on that. John, do you want to take this one?
Sure, there's probably several things that we can address with therapists coming into the district relevant to providing services, and we need to look at what the protocols will be for actually having one-to-one services take place in a separate setting, but also the available equipment and the protocols to guide us through how those services will be handled and how in between students the environment will be clean once the services are finished up.
I'm in a meeting.
Okay, thank you. Somebody's whispering and I can hear you. Hold on. Okay, no, that's still the same thing. So, I mean, I think that, we've kind of discussed the feelings about, there's another comment in there about 3-foot rule and school committee meetings, et cetera. So, again, I think we talked about that and we addressed it as best as we could, but we'll take it up again. Let's have that discussion. I think with the reopening, a discussion on the meeting discussion can be included in that so that we can see where we're at. We'll have August 4th now because we moved it 2 weeks back. 2 weeks earlier. I would definitely suggest and appreciate a Zoom meeting for that. We'll have to check some technology links with regards to the executive session, but we'll get through that as well. And then we'll move to the 19th for any other regular business. So I think we're good. Okay, committee from Carla. Committee member referrals. Carla? Okay. Bill?
Nothing, thank you.
Nancy?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, Tammy?
Nothing, thank you.
Fred?
I'm still on. Nothing, thank you.
Deb?
Nothing, thank you.
Mitch?
Yeah, just want to again emphasize the importance of going to the Zoom meeting with the superintendent. I want to emphasize that the safety of the kids is our #1 concern. And if you have any further ideas on how we can be more safe given this particular structure, other safety measures that we can put into place to protect the students, to protect the teachers and staff, the administrators, we would certainly like to hear them. I know the superintendent would like to hear them as well. And we value your input and we value your cooperation as well.
Thank you. With no further business to come before the committee this evening, Nancy?
I make a motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
Okay, everybody seconded kind of, so Cheryl, pick one. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
All right.
Take care, thank you very much.
Have a good night, folks. Stay safe.
Take care, everybody.
Before leaving, Josh, make sure you copy that script so that we have it. The chat box, please.
Who's getting that?
Josh, I want to make sure Josh gets a copy of it to the committee.
Josh, you got that?
Chat is saved.
Right, thank you.
Take care, everybody.